Hey, what's up, guys? I am Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Shorter video coming at you today. The Pelicans 2024-25 schedule got released, and I'm going to give you 5 takeaways just from what I saw. Look, this is always exciting. This is like Christmas morning for me when the schedule comes out. I get to kind of plan the next 6-7 months of my life, see what road trips, are worth me going out and doing. I do about half of the away games. Um, so I'm really excited. And the feedback I got just from checking in people with the team was they felt like it's a pretty fair schedule. The teams get these schedules about a week before they're released to the public. They get a chance to make changes or petition for changes. And a lot of the times they get denied. The Pelicans have done that in the past where they said, look, this doesn't feel fair. This is an insane road trip. And they'll try to petition those changes. From what I could tell, they were pretty happy with the schedule this year. They felt like it all was pretty fair. So here's some of my takeaways. Number one, all of the miniseries. The Pelicans open their season against Chicago, and then they go on a 4-game road trip at Portland, at Golden State, at Golden State. This is a theme of this year's schedule and really just NBA schedules in general over the past few years. The proliferation of these, hey, I'm going to play the same team twice in 3 days, twice in 2 days, twice in 4 days. I counted 10 miniseries on the Pelican schedule. Trailblazers, Warriors, Wizards, Jazz, Nuggets, Kings, Spurs, Suns, Rockets, Timberwolves. The Pelicans will play all 10 of those teams consecutively during the regular season. I personally am a fan of the miniseries just because, sometimes like the second game especially, like it can feel more important, like one team beats the other and then the team just got beat. They feel some type of way about it and they want to come back and they want to come back at you stronger and they just give more effort. And, I just think these are really interesting because, it's no matter, even if you're a better team, it's hard to beat a team twice in a row. I mean, look at Serbia and the United States. United States beat Serbia in the most recent Olympic Games by 20 points in the first 2 games. Well, to get to the championship game, to get to the gold medal game, the US had to beat Serbia a third time and they barely beat them. They were down a lot. They needed to shoot 50% from 3 to win. They had to play really, really well to beat Serbia that third time. The other part of this too is it just helps with travel, and that's easier on the players, the coaches, and it's easier on the beat writers too. So I am a fan of all these miniseries. Number 2, no crazy road trips. In my time covering the NBA, I think this is year 9 for me. I think it's year 9. I'll double check that. I started out doing this part-time. This will be my 6th season covering the Pelicans full-time. I've seen teams go on 5-game road trips, 6-game road trips, 7-game road trips. I've seen some insane road trips. This year, the Pelicans' longest road trip of the season is only 4 games. They have 3 4-game road trips. The first one of them is early in the season in October, the one I just talked about earlier of at Portland, at Golden State, at Golden State. Looking here, the second one is in the beginning of February. This is a pretty difficult one at Denver, at SAC, at OKC. And then let's see here. And then I'm looking at the third one here, tail end of February, beginning of March, at Phoenix, at Utah, at LA Lakers. So that'll be a pretty challenging one too. But look, like I said earlier, there's no insane road trips for this team. There were not a lot of complaints from Pelicans people I talked to just about, this feels so unfair. So I think they got a pretty good draw. Number 3, home for the holidays. The Pelicans did not get a Christmas Day game. This was the 4th straight year they are not playing on Christmas Day. It's interesting. Pelicans' first year was Zion and Brandon Ingram. 2019-20, they did play on Christmas Day. They went out to Denver, played Denver. I was actually at that game. I think Brandon Ingram hit 7 threes. The Pelicans won. They really needed a win. God, they struggled so much at the beginning of that season. Their second year, a COVID year, I think it was their second game of the season, Christmas Day in Miami. I was also at that game. I was one of like 3 people in the arena. A bizarre experience. I actually drove to Florida and watched the Pelicans play the Raptors in Tampa, and then I drove to Miami and watched them play the Heat in Miami on Christmas Day. And then for the last 4 years, they've not played on Christmas Day. And I think this is kind of bittersweet because on one hand, if you play on Christmas Day, this says, hey, look, you're an important team in the NBA. You deserve to be playing on this high profile day. On the other hand, it kind of stinks. I mean, look, I think most people want to spend the day with their families. I mean, Stan Van Gundy said this. He was like, I'd rather just spend Christmas Day with my family than work. That's how I feel personally. And the Pelicans are going to be home for a big chunk of the holiday season. They've got 5 games sandwiched around Christmas. The Knicks, Denver, Houston, Memphis, Clippers. They're going to play on the 22nd, and then they're going to get the 23rd, 24th, and 25th off. I would imagine they practice on the 23rd, but like they probably won't practice on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And that's just really nice for, the players, the coaches, everyone involved to get to spend the day with their families. The NBA schedule is a grind, man. It is a grind. And so when you get something like this, I think you got to see the positive. Number 4, the number of national TV games. The Pelicans got 13 national TV games this year if you include the NBA TV games. I really don't like to include the NBA TV games. Those are kind of pseudo national TV games. So if you don't include them, they got 9. They got 3 on TNT, 6 on ESPN. This is the 18th most of all the teams in terms of the national TV games. This is a middle of the pack mark, which to me makes sense given the Pelicans have been a play-in tournament team the past 3 years. I love the New Orleans market. The reality is it's the second smallest media market in the NBA. I do think one of the interesting parts about this is if you contrast it with Zion's rookie year, they got 30 national TV games then. I think, early in Zion's career, it was kind of interesting. I think the broadcast partners were looking at it, and there was all this exuberance over Zion Williamson coming off of Duke. Let's put him on national TV every single night. That is no longer the case. The Pelicans and Zion are in a little bit of a different place now. I don't think that that's necessarily bad. I think Zion proved a lot last year by playing in 70 games. And look, for Zion to have a successful season, to me, I think there are 2 main things. I think, like last year, you want him to play in a lot of games. He played in 70 games last year, huge W. And I think you want him to get playoff experience. He was right there, almost got playoff experience last year. Unfortunately, got hurt in the play-in tournament, and you just want him to get that playoff action for the first time in his career. It's more than time. One last thing in the national TV stuff. Good note from Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press. Teams are not playing the day before or the day after national TV games anywhere in the NBA. That really just goes to show you how important that the NBA and their broadcast partners think that these games are. Last thing I got for you, the most difficult stretch of the season. To me, this is the end of January and all of February. The last 2 games in January, the Pelicans are going to play Dallas and Boston, the 2 teams that just met in the most recent NBA Finals. The first 2 games of February, the Pelicans are going to play the Denver Nuggets, the 2023 NBA champions. In February, the Pelicans have a total of 11 games, not as many as you would in a normal month just because the All-Star break is in February. Of these 11 games they're going to play in February, all are against teams that either were in the playoffs or were playing teams in the Western Conference last year. 9 of the 11 are against Western Conference playoff teams or Western Conference play-in teams from last year. The 2 that aren't are against the San Antonio Spurs and Victor Wembanyama, who are not very good last year, but I think they're going to be better this year. They added Chris Paul, they added Harrison Barnes, they've got some solid vets in there, and you could just see it with Wembanyama. I mean, the Spurs are just not going to be a pushover. Wembanyama, look, he might win Defensive Player of the Year this year. I got to watch him in person a couple times last year. Wembanyama has the potential to be literally the greatest defensive player of all time. These are not going to just be check them off automatic wins. Anyways, guys, that's all I got from you from the Pelicans schedule. I'll be doing a lot more of this shorter stuff on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button.